Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. MAGA Republicans, extremism. MAGA Republicans, extremism. Donald Trump is not normal. MAGA Republicans, extremism. Donald Trump is not normal. Extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. MAGA Republicans, extremism. Donald Trump, extremism. Donald Trump is not normal. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Well, everybody, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Guess what it is? That's right, it is Friday, and we're calling this one a freaky, stupid Friday. And it is wild, folks. Absolutely wild what is going on out there. Interesting. I'm still not quite believing in coincidences. I think we've talked about that for a number of years. Don't buy the coincidences, right? All these people dying. Coincidences. Heart attacks. Just a coincidence. Strokes. What a coincidence. Blood clots. Neurological disorders. Sudden death. Coincidence. And wow. Right? And stupid. I don't know if I've ever lived through a week that demonstrated more stupid than this week. Even Joe Biden thought he'd get on the act and made a joke about people thinking he is stupid. And so 4 separate times he called out for a congressman named Doug, who does not exist. Folks, this is the leader of the free world. Remember when they used to call the president of the United States the leader of the free world? Does that even sound remotely like the guy sitting in the White House? It is, folks, the free for all. And if you're on subscribestar.com or thepreparedmind.club, you can be here live Monday through Friday. That's right, Monday through Friday. And apparently YouTube decided to remove the sound from this morning's 0 Dark 30. I guess I may have said something that offended somebody, and they're like, hey, you sound so much like that John guy that we're going to call this a copyright infringement, and we're going to take away the sound. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. This week has been a trial, an absolute trial. I hope you made it through in one piece. I hope you are prepared to put on your thinking cap, because that's what we do here. You know that things are bad. You know things are wrong. You know it is time, right, to get prepared. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. You know it. I know it. We all know it. So the question is, are you prepared up here, right, for what happens on your street, in your neighborhood, in your city, in that 5-mile radius that surrounds you? Are you ready, folks? Now, so far, all is quiet on the Western Front and the Eastern Front. All is quiet on the streets of America, except in Atlanta, right, where they're still having some trouble. But we'll talk about that in a bit. The big concern for the weekend is the outright explosion that can occur, could occur, may occur when Memphis, Tennessee, when they released the footage of the 5 police officers beating another man to death. And all 6 characters in question are African American. So it's not a race thing. So how are they going to characterize their need to riot? Stand by. They're going to come and let us know. Potato Joe? He's supposed to be at Camp David this weekend, but he's going to leave Camp David, which is kind of like a military backup White House, and he's going to fly back over to Delaware for Sunday night. Now, his idiot spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre, little twit extraordinaire, refused to say why. or maybe she couldn't say why. She's about as useful as tits on a bull. You ain't getting no milk from that bull. Anyways, the only thing I can think is, well, if you want to visit or talk to the president while in the White House or at Camp David, there are visitor logs and call logs. If Joe Biden needs to get his talking points, if he needs his instruction from his, shall we call them, foreign handlers, he's got to do it from a place where he is secure and where communication is not secure. Well, this is the free for all. This is Friday, and rather than me doing my 30-minute monologue, guess what? It's going to be a little bit of me and you back and forth. So get your questions in. We're going to pepper the crowd. And Michael Brown sent a $10 Cash App donation in. Thank you, Mr. Brown. And I know you've got some observations, buddy. I know it. Get them into Jolene so we can talk about it. We've got one heck of a Freaky Friday stupid-ass free-for-all. Joe gave us the stupid, folks, but there's plenty more stupid. Don't be surprised. I mean, we got this stupid. This is unfucking believable. Ronna McDaniel Romney, as in Mittens Romney's daughter, she has been declared the winner of the Republican National Committee chairperson election. She was declared the winner. Declared. Did they vote? Or did someone just declare that she's the winner? Now, the last I heard is she has fallen out of favor, that she's not wanted, that she's embroiled in controversy. And you know what I say? I say investigate the bitch for misuse of Republican Party funds, right? So, what am I talking about? Well, a reporter who doesn't follow the mainstream media bullshit approached the Rhino Republican leader, Ronna Romney McDaniel, and he said, hey, what about the $80,000 you spent on alcohol? Right? How many millions did she spend on trips and makeup and other luxury items? Unbelievable. That's the world we live in, folks. Talk about stupid. They expect us to believe that shit. All right. Who wants to step up first? Jolene, who do you want to put up there? It is nothing or none other than Mr. Georgetown himself. He says, crazy days, John. Just checking in from the Georgetown area. Too dug in to leave. Just want to say love your work and you. Hang tough, buddy. Love you. I tell you what, Mr. Georgetown, I'm guessing you're from Georgetown, California, which was just north of my old stomping grounds down there. Georgetown is in an incredible location. You got to leave Placerville and head north on Highway 49. Don't worry, Mr. Georgetown, I won't give away your location. And if you want to get there from the north, you head south from basically the Grass Valley area. Either way, you're crossing an incredible set of river canyon gorges. And when you get to Georgetown, I don't think they take real lightly to communists. Anyways, man, I understand that you're too dug in to leave. When you're all set, when you're fully prepared, when you know what's coming, you're ready. And I appreciate, folks, the fact that we get support, not just for me, but for Jolene, for Uman, for Con, for Vaughn and Kaz, for everyone in the R Syndicate, everyone out there who provides information. Like we got Mr. T, we got Mr. Skylight. We got Michael Brown, who's made an appearance here from time to time with his great questions. Everybody, John, and John, not to mention John. And even sometimes Luke steps up. Now, thank you. Now, we've got this. Let me step into the next zone. You are going to just get a kick out of this shit. The Georgia governor. Oh, yeah, he's a rhino Republican who just attended the World Economic Forum. Well, this jackass, I believe his name is Brian Kemp. right, declares a state of emergency in Georgia because of the protests in Atlanta. And he has mobilized 1,000 National Guard troops. Well, what I've got to say to the state of Georgia, and Atlanta in particular, enjoy your woke. That's right, folks. Coca-Cola, who says, don't be white, or don't be so white, or try not to be white. White bad, whatever the hell it is they said. They're a bunch of assholes. Yeah, this is Georgia, folks, right? Aren't they the peach state, the peachy state? They have Georgia peaches. Anyways, yeah, we're in big trouble. And these rhinos are continuing to demonstrate that they want to act like and sound like they really give a shit. Let's see what happens in Georgia. I love my fellow Georgians, but, nothing but trouble in that state. We need a new governor. We need to get rid of these fucking communists everywhere. And 1,000 National Guard troops. There's one small issue with what I know about the National Guard. And that is that most of them are policemen. At least they were on the West Coast. A huge number of them are already active duty or employed law enforcement officers, city police, sheriff's department, state troopers, etc. So if you mobilize the National Guard, basically you're just saying, hey, change your uniform. But what are they going to do? What did they do back in 2020? Was the National Guard allowed to go in and actually get rid of these scumbags and freaks? Or do they basically just throw them in the back of a paddy wagon and then they would run out the other side, out the other door? That's essentially what happened last time, if they were even allowed to touch them. And it continues to be a problem that these are a bunch of, white privileged little turds who are BLM and Antifa. I talk about, I guess, hating themselves and hating their parents. And these people are the same ones who are just waiting for their parents to die so they get a free ride the rest of their lives. Communism. Unfreaking believable. Let's do this. You know what? I'm curious to see who else is up, Jolene. Who else do we want to put up here while we wait for even more questions and comments to come in? And I hope all of you right now, since I'm focused on the show, kind of hard to watch what's going on out there. Any minute now, any second, at some point in the near future, maybe halfway through the show, they're going to release that video. And I don't believe for a second that BLM, Antifa, George Soros, and all of his idiots aren't totally prepared for full-on rioting at select locations around the country, as if they don't know what's coming. If I knew it last weekend and I told you guys about it and said, hey, supposed to release it Monday. And then they said, no, we're going to wait till Friday. So they got the whole weekend to riot, right? That way, even the Antifa and BLM with jobs will have a chance to, step away from their jobs and really enjoy the weekend, burning their cities and looting their cities and murdering people. Is it going to happen this time, folks? Is it? Well, there's a lot of problems with the current administration. Joe Biden, his secret documents issues, got a lot of problems in Congress, a lot of problems over in Ukraine, a lot of problems with the banking system, the monetary system, the financial system. It would be nice to have a couple of months of rioting and burning in this country to take people's minds off of things that really matter and have to deal with and wonder if their cities can hold themselves together while the police sit back and are told, don't do anything about it. Anyways, Jolene, who do we want to toss up next? And it is Charles Gentry, always with a rather intellectual look at things. And he says, we, the people, have to do our part. If we fail to remove the tyrants with wealth and words, we have to remove them the other way. Fight with words and wealth while we can. It's a very interesting perspective from which to address the issues we're facing. Facing the tyrants with wealth and words. I find it absolutely fascinating that the satire piece, because I consider it just in-your-face satire, blaming the unjuicinated for the plight that all of the people who took that shit are now dealing with. Blood on our hands. right? We were told to shut up and be silent. Well, if we shut up and be silent, guess what? They've taken away one of our non-violent means of retort. Except that Antifa, BLM, and all leftists believe that words are violent. So they think they took away our First Amendment, and they keep forgetting that leaves us with very little else. The wealth we have to buy bullets and guns, and the Second Amendment says those tools are yours and they cannot be taken, and they should not be forsaken. A little Dr. Seuss for you. Yep, we are going to fight with words while we can. We'll use our wealth while it's advisable. But ultimately, folks, wars and such are won with violence. And I'm not going to glamorize it. But when I grew up, did they or did they not glamorize war? Oh, it did. Absolutely. Every depiction of the American Revolution was the glory of freedom, the glory of liberty, the glory of America was won by spilling the blood of tyrants and redcoats. You know, anyone who would take $1 to try and stand up and take your life, well, they deserve to have theirs taken. Right? There's no excuse for the troops that support and obey the tyrants. I think that's just a fine way to say it, right? What is wrong with glamorizing how liberty is won? What is wrong with glorifying how our country came to be? Well, they don't like our country and they don't like our nation. They don't like our laws. And so they try to make it illegal. They want to silence us. Great. Thank you, Mr. Gentry. Now, I said this is a freaky, stupid Friday, and this was fascinating to me. Today, now again, since you saw me last, even though apparently I wasn't allowed to speak any words this morning on YouTube, all of this, everything we're talking about, well, there's going to be references to other things that happened in this week, but I've got new stuff. They are screaming that this is madness. What I'm speaking of is the German foreign minister saying that the, quote, West is at war with Russia, right? So after that, France and Croatia are denying that the West is at war with Russia and that it is madness to make such a statement. Well, they're half right. It is madness. These idiots can't get their shit straight. We've got World War III brewing, boiling, getting ready to break out of Ukraine and involve other nations. And they don't even know what side they're on. These people have no idea what they're supposed to be supporting. In 2016, when Trump was running for president, I said, why isn't he talking about freedom? Why isn't liberty part of the Republican platform? Freedoms, liberty. Well, here we are. Are we talking about liberating Ukraine and giving them freedom? Who is going to support what is going on over there? Well, we don't really know what this is about other than Russian aggression, right? Because if you actually ask, why did Russia commit this special military operation, this act of aggression? It had everything to do, folks, and he was and is acting within international law, right? He's protecting Russian citizens who are being slaughtered by the Azov battalion. How do you support a country that slaughters innocent civilians just because they happen to be living within the territorial boundary? And so the people of those regions voted and left and created a new political boundary line from which they can live, right? In other words, they threw off the shackles of tyrants like Voldemort Zelensky, right? And they created a better system for themselves to live under. But yeah, folks, a lot of Europe is outraged at these idiots, these stupid people in politics. Right? F-16s, you guys know what F-16s are, right? Joe Biden says he has F-16s, so your AR-15s aren't needed. They're not good enough. the maker of the F-16s, the military industrial complex in America, says they're ready as soon as they need to send some of those over to Ukraine. And this week, Dunderhead Biden has said he's going to send M1A2 Abrams tanks. Apparently, there was a mistake that he was going to send the M1A1. Apparently, he's going to be sending some M1A2 or upgraded M1A1s. Send them on over there so that those Ukrainian heroes can fight those rascally Russians. Well, I think people in Europe may just be starting to wake up a little bit, realize that they're on the brink of World War III. Maybe someone went and talked to their parents and their grandparents and said, hey, is this such a smart fucking idea? Well, I know the answer to that question. Do you? All right, let's see what you guys want to talk about next. It is Militant. And he says, we aren't holding up our end of the bargain. We're supposed to remove tyrants from power. Well, Militant, here's what I have to say. It's a process. The lead up to 1776, July 4th, 1776, it didn't happen the week before or even at the beginning of 1776. It took years, decades of abuse from King George before the people finally had enough. And that's why when you read the Declaration of Independence, you see all of the bullshit that the British were doing. The king, the territorial governors, what they're doing under the king's name, right? The redcoats, the shall we say, police of their day, violating people's rights, living in their houses, stealing their property, taxing them, filing false charges against them, right? Provoking the Native Americans to attack the settlers, right? Yeah. What are we seeing? People are being provoked to attack us. False charges, bullshit charges, made up stuff. You bet. Overtaxed, having our houses broken into by government agents. So, Militant, we're getting there. It doesn't all happen in a day. And I understand. Sadly, we would like to see the problem solved instantly. Now, what did they do back in the 1760s and the 1770s, before 1776? We sent delegates, representatives, ambassadors to speak with the colonial governors, to talk to the military. We even sent people over to England, to Parliament, to plead with them, to beg them to knock the bullshit off. So much like Washington, D.C., where we're sending representatives there to plead with the Washington elite and power machine, stop your bullshit. We know what you're doing. We know how wrong it is, and we're not going to be left with any choice. It takes a while for this process to play out. Additionally, folks, see this point is rather salient. Back in the 1700s, the colonies also sent delegates not just to England, but to other nations around Europe. Other nations to ask for help. So I believe as von Steuben came over and helped train Americans, a German military officer, as well as the, I think, Marquis de Lafayette from France, and they provided assistance. That's right, other nations provided assistance. Now, of course, we hear about the Hessians who fought on the side of the Brits, Hessians being German mercenaries. But I'm sure we had people from Germany who were already here, who were fighting on our side. And I'm sure that many of the Hessians, or Germans, if you will, changed sides. I'm sure a lot of the British soldiers realized that, they were fighting for the wrong reasons. At least I would like to hope so. There's not a lot of evidence to suggest that, but there is some evidence, and I have read some stories that it seems like the British military turned a blind eye to Washington and his troops and allowed for many miraculous moves that are often attributed to providence, but can also be attributed to, well, sympathy for the colonies. Our time's going to come, Militant. Stand fast. Okay, now, FTX creditors, that is to say, people who FTX owe money to. And FTX being the little corporation that had what, 50, 100 billion more in money that they were spending on their little Bahamas secret hideaways and homes, first class, everything, their little panty waist orgies, and then sending money over to Ukraine, trying to launder it, and then send money back to Biden and other Democrats and rhinos. Where's the investigation on that, McCarthy? Where is it? Where is the investigation on who has that money, who it was given to, and have they given it back, and how do they give it back? Anyways, I digress. The FTX creditors, that's right, they want Sammy Boy, Slim, Stupids. Right, Sam Bankman-Fried. They want his parents to be subpoenaed so they can ask them what they know and then include them in the financial recovery efforts. In other words, the parents may be part of this. Well, that's interesting, right? To go after someone's parents when he's supposed to be a full-grown adult. But what part did they play in FTX to create the nexus between the creditors and the parents? Folks, this is deep and this is nasty. And wow. Just fucking wow. And here we are. Before we get to another subscriber question, I've got this. I tell you, whoa! Hey, look at this. It's happening again. Another NFL star is down, but thankfully not out, but barely. Another NFL, National Football League player almost died. Guess what he had? A stroke. But it's being labeled as a severe stroke. Folks, that's terrible. I hope and pray that this guy recovers from his stroke. And I sure hope he gets some help detoxing and removing that shit out of his body. Once again, folks, what is a stroke? A stroke is where a clot breaks off inside the bloodstream from wherever it's living, and it floats up into the brain and it clogs one of the arteries, because an incredible amount of blood goes to the brain. Right? And that part of the brain suffers. It can be damaged or completely killed by loss of blood. That's what a stroke does. You can lose motor control. You can lose your memory. You can lose your mind. You can lose the ability to speak. It just depends on what part of the brain that clot travels into and gets stuck. Now, if you have a severe stroke, right, the smaller the particle, the more it can travel into an isolated part of the brain. But if it's a big old chunk of shit, right, and it starts blocking stuff off, that is a severe stroke because you're affecting huge parts of the brain. Yeah, I wonder what caused that. I wonder what caused that. What could it be? What has been going on? Yeah, you guys, we all know. We all know. And the people in the media, you can't count on them. You can't rely on them. You and I here on the Prepared Mind Network are basically handicapped. We work how we can through this network, through our syndicate. We do what we can by sharing, emailing, texting, and that's what I want everyone to do is share the internet address. Share that so that they can get the truth. Well, if you want to try and get it off of, mainstream media, the Good Morning America hosts, T.J. Holmes and Amy Robach, they've been fired because they apparently had an extramarital affair, and there's accusations of drunkenness, misconduct. Right? Wasn't it Matt Lowry? Good old cute Matt. Little Matt. No, is it Matt Lowry? Matt, whatever the hell his name was. Someone, am I wrong? Is it Matt Lowry? Anyways, he used to be on there with cute little Katie Couric, right? Until he was accused of being a fucking sexual lecherous predator. Surprised? Folks, there is no honorable media. It's up to us. It's up to us. All right, let's do another one of your questions out there. What are we going to talk about next? It is, drum roll, Charles Gentry again. He says, when a politician says something anti-Second Amendment, I want to ask them what it is they're planning on doing that would make me give an armed response. Oh, ouch. To pose this question would be awesome, right? Well, see, they're not worried about, or they claim to not be worried about, an armed response against the government. What they say is there's just too many people out there being killed with guns. Too many children are dying. Too many people are being killed with guns in mass murder attempts. Once again, what political persuasion are those who are committing mass murder with guns? Yeah, they're leftists. People who have lost their fucking minds, typically, folks, dwell on the politically left side because in their minds, they can justify. They tend to justify, right, to themselves why they should be able to commit the crimes they commit. So, yeah, but if they were honest and say, what are you doing that makes me need to have, right, my AR-15, my AK-47, right? Well, they'd go, well, they can't answer that because it paints them as awful people. It's like, well, if you're not doing anything wrong in the government, you shouldn't worry about my Second Amendment rights because I have no reason to act. But if the call and need for an armed response arises, it's because the government has stepped outside of its authority, right, and violated our rights. Very interesting. Thank you, Charles. That was a really good way to kind of look back at that both ways. Now, guess what? This is very interesting. Hang on to your hats, folks. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, has done what? They have revoked, taken away the authorization for Astrazeneca's cerveza-bug treatment called Evusheld. Evushield? Evo Shield, right? Evolution Shield. Didn't we hear from Pfizer's chief dumbass who got caught by going on film admitting that they're forcing mutations, what they're calling, guided evolution or what have you? It's not evolution, it's mutations. Mutations. I have never seen or heard of a bacteria growing 2 legs or 4 legs or 6 legs and evolving into a legged creature. It just doesn't happen. Anyways, here we are. I want to ask this question. Well, no. One question isn't enough. A series of questions. Okay, FDA, you're revoking the authorization for AstraZeneca's product. Why? Why now? Because we know what it is? Because we are now pissed off and everybody is asking the question? First, they come out and say, well, there's no evidence that it's causing death. No evidence at all. Okay, now see, if people were dying of 100 different things all of a sudden, we could say, well, we don't know what caused it, but it seemed to be consistent with heart or cardio issues, blood clots, strokes, heart attacks, all associated together. You get enough blood clots in your heart, folks, guess what? Heart can't get enough blood to operate. It goes into what is called a seizure, right? It seizes up. heart attack, right? You get blood clots that are outside the heart and they break loose. They get in your brain. That gives you your stroke. The fact that people can't catch their breath. They're short of breath. Pulmonary breathing issues. They're not getting enough blood circulation through their lungs. Why now are they revoking authorization? Now, we're not going to get the truth. I hope we get the truth. I know Senator Johnson and many others are saying, hey, we got some fucking questions to ask here. Right? Now, if you remember, also, they approved a Jim Jones juice product and said this is safe, but that product never made it out into the public. Instead, they said this product is safe, and then they put this other shit out there and said, well, this is the experimental stuff, and that was all that was available. But the government says, well, we made something approved, so you have to take it. Unbelievable, folks, the amount of lying and bullshit we're going to continue to be exposed to. Why won't they tell us the truth? Then I have to ask you this question. When was the last time any president of the United States admitted they were wrong? Admitted they had done something awful? Do you know who that president was? The last one? The one I'm thinking of is Richard Milhouse Nixon. He basically admitted that he was wrong by resigning from office. He was involved in the Watergate, the original gate, the Watergate fiasco, where some CIA stooges went in and broke into an office. Understand this, folks. There were no top secret documents in that office. These CIA stooges, who were, by the way, also involved in the CIA assassination of President John F. Kennedy, same guys, folks, same main crew. Guess what? They weren't stealing secret documents. All they were doing is going through campaign headquarters of the Democrats. Today, we have the President of the United States in possession in multiple locations of secret classified documents, not properly stored, not properly secured, at multiple locations that weren't being guarded, weren't authorized. And he's just fine. No need for him to admit fault. Instead, well, we all do it. In fact, we should ask all former presidents and vice presidents, why don't you go out and check your garages and make sure you don't have any secret documents too, like buffoon Mike Pence did, right? Unbelievable. It truly is unbelievable. Okay. Wow. I mean, where do we go, folks? The freaky stupid shit. How stupid are you? Now, for me, I don't really think I'm that stupid. So when I hear something like this, Kroger, which is, your basic Piggly Wiggly, Safeway, Publix, right? Winn-Dixie, it's a supermarket chain. They are now selling the world's first carbon neutral eggs. Well, the world's first in the United States of America. Folks, there is no such thing as carbon neutral eggs. If there is a chicken involved, there's carbon, because chickens are a carbon-based life form. And if a chicken lays an egg, you can bet your ass there is carbon in that egg. If it's a chicken and if it's an egg, there's carbon. There's no way to be carbon neutral. So what are they doing? How are they coming up with? How are they claiming that their chickens are carbon neutral? Well, I guess what they're doing is they're collecting carbon out of the atmosphere, out of the environment. They're buying Al Gore's carbon credits so they can say, hey, our chickens aren't doing any damage to the world because we're cleaning up in other places. Okay, let me look at it this way. If I had a nuclear, no, let's not go nuclear. Instead, let's go with toxic sludge. If I had a toxic sludge manufacturing chemical plant, and I dumped 500 barrels of toxic sludge into the river, you would say I was grossly polluting the planet, would you not? But what if I turn around and said, hey, I bought 1,000 drums of toxic sludge from other companies so they wouldn't spill it. And we're storing those safely so I can turn around and spill 500. And so I'm carbon neutral. I'm sludge neutral. I'm toxic neutral. You see, chickens and eggs is carbon. And it doesn't matter how much they do elsewhere. They're still, folks, producing carbon, et cetera, et cetera. It's bullshit. It's another way to fucking tax people. They're going to charge extra money to buy these eggs. At the same time, all other eggs are out of control price-wise. Now, they did go up, bump the ceiling, and they've come down in price a little, but now they're doing this shit. Oh, it's only a 100% increase in price. Nothing to worry about here. Actually, I think it's more like 150% in my world. Okay, let's do this. Let's do another one of your questions. I know we got a lot more. It's Bonnie Blue 2A. And she said, who is preparing for nuclear war? The World Health Organization is who is preparing for nuclear war. They suggest people have kelp, which is iodine and minerals, and applesauce, apple juice, which is pectin, in their preps to mitigate fallout effects. You need potassium iodide. You can get those pills off of Amazon. I'm not an Amazon fan, folks, but I am most concerned about making sure you have the most effective means for preparing for nuclear war fallout. And that is potassium iodide tablets, and they're for sale on Amazon. But it's interesting now that the World Health Organization is preparing and telling people to prepare. Right? I mean, eating kelp, sure, that's good. But are you getting enough? You need to flood the thyroid at that point. Flood the thyroid with iodine in order to protect it from the ravaging effects of cesium, which is a radioactive element that is created during a nuclear explosion. All right, Bonnie Blue says, this is my suggestion, not World Health Organization. Kelp can increase iodine levels in the body. Now, okay, that was her suggestion. Kelp, look into it. Find out how much you need to eat for various health reasons. It is full of minerals, folks. Kelp is basically seaweed. But they make seaweed facial products and seaweed this and that. I'm not against it. I just don't think it is the most effective way, right? I just don't think so. Now, if you know what you're doing, if you're a plantologist like Bonnie or Nikki, or there's several of you on here who know your plants and herbs, etc., then you're in a good place. And it wouldn't hurt to get books on what plants are used for what health purposes. Long before, folks, Big Pharma, there were books out there and plants that people ate. Now they consider that what? Well, that's voodoo science, right? That's old wives' tales. Really. St. John's wort has been used for centuries to help promote positive mood. Maybe that's why I'm such a happy fucking guy. Yeah, St. John's wort. It's an herb, right? I don't need to take pharmaceuticals, right? But yeah, I do have a pretty good attitude, I think. But I'm sure if you asked one of these left-wing lunatics, they wouldn't agree. They'd probably say I have the complete wrong attitude. Well, let's see what my attitude is at the next question. Jolene, go ahead and pop it on up. Let's see what's out there. And it is Village Idiot. 40 years ago tonight, standing on the yellow footprints, hashtag Semper Fi. Everyone, if you will, put hashtag Semper Fi in the comments to piss off YouTube. 40 years ago, man, that's incredible. So you're about 58 years old. I ran into a active duty guy today, and he was dressed in civilian clothes. And I said, hey, what branch of the service, right? He says, Air Force. And he says, you? I said, yeah, Marine Corps. He said, hey, man, Thanks for your service. I'm like, dude, you're in the fucking service, right? Do the right thing. Make the right decisions. It's really funny, though. It's really interesting being in my age group now as a veteran and talking to other veterans as well as active duty, running into veterans at all walks now. This guy was wearing a t-shirt, nondescript t-shirt, but he was also wearing camis and boots, but he had the signature high and tight of the military. People are showing who they are and what they are, that they're Americans and that they love their country and that they're willing to serve it and stand it. You know, I've never had anyone say, hey, you're a soldier or Marine. And I say Marine, and they say, well, fuck you. We hate you guys. No one does that to me. I'm waiting. All right, Jolene, who do we have next? What do we have up there? Who is going to be the one? It is David. He says, all we need is a leader to put us on the road. The leader will emerge. Now, this is another interesting concept. What is a leader, folks? Well, a lot of people want to be leaders. A lot of people pretend to be leaders. Leaders typically are intelligent. Leaders typically are strong-willed. Leaders typically are charismatic. And usually they are handsome. So that's how that fucking works. Who is the leader that we need? I don't know. Now, the road, that's the other part of your statement, David, that is interesting to me. What the evil bastards in the world are trying to do, in my opinion, they're trying to herd us like cattle down the road, down the path to the cliff that we jump over. Right? What is that cliff? Well, that's where we decide whether or not we're going to serve them as our masters. Right? Serve them as our masters. And if you don't, then you get shoved off the cliff, right? Otherwise, you get set off to the side and said, there you go, you're a fine little sheep. Well, we're being put on the road, right? Yes, we're a lot like cats, hard to herd us, but they make laws here, they make laws there, more social pressure here, more rules there, more regulations, and pretty soon they've got us all stuck in this narrow path, the road. And they're pushing one direction, away from liberty and towards totalitarianism and death. That's the road. You get rid of all of the people who say, yeah, we'll be good little slaves, and they're no longer on that road, right? They get to stand off to the side and go, see, look at all those bad people on the road, right? They're a bunch of criminals and freedom people, yeah. Well, guess what? Right? You separate the wheat from the chaff. You make life so difficult and uncomfortable. You push us too far and too close to that edge. And that is when the people will turn around. And a leader will be there amongst us. Who is all those things, right? Going to be charismatic. He's going to be smart. He's going to be strong-willed. And probably will be handsome. I don't fucking know. The leader will emerge. I agree with that. Patience, folks. They haven't squeezed us enough. They just haven't. Okay. Who is next? What do we have next? What is the comment? Is Kevin. He says, American Special Forces recruit and train insurgents. Green Berets are famous for that. Can't be true, but it seems to me Antifa are a lot like what Special Forces would create if they were operating in the United States. It's an interesting thought. It wouldn't surprise me if this is occurring in some form or fashion. Maybe not Special Forces, maybe not special forces, but government agents, FBI, right? Don't forget there's that Patriot Front group out there that shows up like khaki wearing Antifa with their little masks. They're out there. I'm sure they have infiltrated Antifa and are helping train them. But insurgents do things differently than these violent protests. You see, an insurgent goes after the government structure. That's what they do, right? You attack the enemy, you go after their government structure, you try and beat them down and win by attrition, right? You don't give in, you always fight, you always pick away at the perimeter. Antifa and BLM really aren't doing that. Now, when they attack police stations, that's interesting. That is very much like an insurrection being fought by insurgents. But we were told that they're loosely organized and they're just an idea, right, by the president himself. That's right. The leader of the free world doesn't know what a fucking terrorist is. But I do think there is a difference between terrorists and insurgents. Right? Terrorism is using violence or the threat of violence to cause political action to occur on your behalf the way you wish. Insurgents are there to overthrow the government 100%. Now, what is the difference between an insurgent and a terrorist? Is there how much difference? There may not be a lot. Very close. They're ugly cousins. So I really enjoy this thought, Kevin. I really enjoy this thought. It would disgust me beyond reproach if I found out that Green Beret and other military operators are training Antifa to fight in guerrilla warfare. Now, I do know that they have their whatever Brown, what John Brown gun club, where little communist pricks go to learn how to shoot guns. I'm sure they end up shooting themselves in the feet far more often than they hit the fucking target. We'll find out. But yeah, it's a very interesting thought. And it could be something, Kevin, that becomes a development. We've watched a lot of things over the years that started very small, but they progressed in a certain direction and then they developed and got bigger and it became a huge problem. Kind of like the LGBTQ crowd, which is so radical that they even piss themselves off. Like the radical lesbians do not like the radical trans men saying they're women. And speaking of that, folks, identifying as a woman who appeared to me to be Asian in appearance. 29 years old, this woman was arrested at a New Jersey high school. She had been attending school for 4 days. She posed as a student, as a freshman. She had posed as a freshman, which is 15 years old. She had a fake birth certificate. I guess someone looked at it and decided that isn't even Obama quality birth certificate, right? 29-year-old. What the hell was she doing in school? Well, apparently she creeped the kids out. The kids even protested it, right? They're like, no fucking way, right? But this person, I mean, have some sympathy, right? This is probably a minor attracted person who identified as a high school freshman. And aren't we supposed to accept her mental disorder and tell her, yeah, you're a freshman in high school. It's okay. We're not gonna be mad. We're gonna allow it. I don't fucking think so. But that's how crazy these lunatics are, folks. Truly, that fucking stupid. Oh, and speaking of fruitcake idiots, Paul Pelosi's 911 call and video has been being released today. And here's a quote from it. He's telling me he's a friend, but I don't know him. And we're supposed to just accept that as fact. Well, Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pants, 90 Proof Nancy's husband, said, I don't know that guy. And then when, if they had searched his pockets and found weed and cocaine, he'd be like, that's not mine. I don't know how that got there. Right? Sure, Paul. Of course, Paul will say he doesn't know the LGB fruitcake. Unbelievable what is going on, folks. It is a very freaky and stupid Friday free-for-all. Are you prepared? I think it's a safe and fair question to ask. Are you prepared? Do you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan? Okay, Jolene, I wonder. And it would be Bonnie Blue 2A. She says the DNC has called out their armed militia. Any distraction will do. God bless Project Veritas for its work exposing Pfizer and directed evolution. The older I get and the more I learn, the less I believe in evolution. And I know that if you take that concept of life is created all the way back and say, well, what was the first cause? Or how did life first evolve then if it's always being manipulated and changed and created by others? Well, I don't know that answer, but I do know that I don't believe in evolution. Why aren't there 6 armed monkeys? Why aren't there 6 armed human beings? You can get a whole lot more work done, right? Someone should just be born one day with 6 fucking arms. And if it's really successful, then that person can mate with everybody and pass on that 6-armed mutation. Not buying it. It's not directed evolution. It's directed weapons technology. And I'm not picking on you, Bonnie. I'm just going off on my little rant here. I've been saving up all day. Now, the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, they want to call out their little shock troops. Bring it on. Bring it on. I know what the sound is when a small piece of copper-clad lead strikes near me, hits the ground, hits a tree. I know what that sound is. And if I hear that sound, it's game on at that point. It really is. That can happen, folks. It can happen anytime. Are you prepared? Directed evolution. Huh? It's not evolution if someone else is putting their hand in it. Kind of like this. The news story that came out today that scientists are using CRISPR gene editing. I don't know why they need to put the word CRISPR in there. It's not like we understand what CRISPR is. But gene editing, I think we can understand that. They're putting alligator genetics into catfish. I wonder if they're using a coronavirus as the delivery package. Kind of like they use something very similar to that to deliver new mRNA programming to humans who end up, well, having enlarged hearts, strokes, heart attacks, seizures, embolisms, aneurysms, pulmonary fucking failure, death, suddenly. Yeah. Once they started doing this, folks, fuck it. Let's just turn it loose, right? These people are playing God, except they aren't gods. They're part of a death cult. Oh, yeah, let's do this. Let's take some dino DNA and inject it into babies and see what happens. Let's take some brontosaurus DNA and inject it into a llama. See if its neck grows 50 feet long. Let's just see what happens if we do this and this shit and stick it all together. Folks, have you ever seen a platypus? It's a small aquatic creature that has a tail like a beaver and a duck like a bill like a duck. But it's a platypus. That to me looks like someone used CRISPR gene editing and was fucking around with animals. Unbelievable. This has been Friday's stupid free-for-all. I mean, it's freaky. It is absolutely freaky. I don't want to leave quite yet. Yeah, Lockheed Martin wants to give F-16s to Ukraine. Matt Gaetz has introduced legislation, a resolution to punish that total moron, Adam Shifty Shit His Pants Schiff, right? It's called the Pencil Resolution. Go Matt Gaetz, right? Go Matt Gaetz. Now, Mike Pompeo, speaking about Adam Schiff, came out and said, quote, during my time as CIA director and Secretary of State, I know he leaked classified information. Well, look, you fuckhead, you were the CIA director and Secretary of State, and you did not refer this matter to the Attorney General's office? But now that we know this information, where's Merrick? Where's McCarthy? Anyone? Bueller, right? No. And I'm not going to let you go, folks. I'm not going to let you go without hitting you with this. In Spain, a football star named Estrella Martin. Guess what happened to this 15-year-old super athlete? Died suddenly. Died suddenly. There we are, folks. I'm wondering what's going to happen this weekend. I'll be watching. I'm going to be back Sunday Night Live, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time. Sunday Night Live. I'm wondering what we'll be talking about on Sunday. I'm thinking it's going to be about shit hitting the fan. I hope you join me. I want a big turnout and a big crowd. It shows that we're doing our job and that we're sending people that internet link and that they learn about what is happening. Not from the mainstream media, not from their social media that is acceptable, right? They need to stop being fucking cowards and step up and start learning something that is real. Right? Claiming that you're a girl when you've got testicles is not real life. Right? Russia coming down on the rest of the world for fucking with them, that's going to be real life. I sure hope it doesn't happen. But these idiots, they haven't given up on it, have they? They haven't quit pushing for it, have they? Folks, chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Semper Fi, Godspeed.